Hi everyone, I'm not feeling 100% today. I'm not ill, I'm just on that side effect train, but I don't like skipping videos, so instead we're gonna do something simple. We're gonna talk about what it's like to live in a big city. When you live in a big city, there are a lot of things that just become your normal, which would be really weird if they happened in, you know, your small hometown or something. I'm from a very small town in Norway with like 8,000 people, and I've lived in Orlando, Florida for 1 year and London, UK for 7 years. It's a long time. And these are some things that I was not used to before, and now it's kind of crazy that these are just my normal. Number one, everywhere smells like pee. You know those cute red phone booths that are really Londony and people love to take pictures with them? Yeah, they smell like pee. When you just see them in the pictures, they look so Instagram friendly, but if you get close to them or open the door, they smell like pee. People pee there. If you go to like any kind of like underpass, you know, those small tunnels underneath bridges and stuff, they're gonna smell like pee. Most like hidden places and some like parking lots and just a lot of places smell like pee. Something you'll also smell a lot is weed, which I imagine is the case for a lot of big cities, but especially for London, you'll never leave your house without smelling weed. Also, wow, I decided to start with all the gross ones right away. There's poop everywhere. And I am not just talking about animal poop. I mean, humans are animals, but you know what I mean. I don't know if I've said this in a different video, but when I lived with my friend Kadim, we had these stairs that were open, so anyone could just enter the stairs, and a lot of the time, like, we would see homeless people sitting there, and some mornings we would walk down there and there would be poop in the stairs. Also related to that, you see a lot of homeless people, and it probably becomes less shocking after a while. You kind of get used to seeing homeless people, because at first it's like, wow, there's like tents and mattresses and people just have like a stack of books and a sleeping bag laying here. You know, you're kind of more like, wow, because you haven't seen it before. I don't want to say that I've become numb to it, because I always feel bad for people and I always want to help, but it's just very sad that it's so normal to see it. Well, obviously, like, England has a huge issue with homeless people. Another thing, when you live in a big city, crossing the road is like a sport. It doesn't matter if the light is red, people will cross, people will just run across the street, or sometimes cross without even looking. I mean, just today I heard a cyclist shout like, watch out, to this person who was crossing the street to get to their Uber without looking, and I'm just like, oh. People are just so stupid with crossing the street. They will just cross at any time. Like, it doesn't matter if it's clear, doesn't matter if the light is green, people will just cross. And my friends a lot of the time have to like wait for me on the other side of the road after they've crossed, because I'm there waiting for the light to turn green, because I am just so scared of crossing the road when it's not clear. I don't want to get run over. It stresses me out. I'll stand there even if there's no cars. Like, I'll be waiting for that light to turn green. Speaking of cars, you get so used to seeing these fancy ass cars, like super fancy spaceship kind of cars. Those are cars that I would just never see in my hometown. If someone had a fancy car, everyone knew their name. Like, everyone knew whose car that was. Here you see them all the time, as well as limos. Like, when I used to, like, when I was younger and I went to like Oslo and I saw a limo, I was like, oh my god, that's so cool. But here I see them all the time. I'm not a car person by any means anyway, but now I'm kind of like, it's not as cool anymore because I'm like, they're so normal. Another thing that you'll see a lot is people acting crazy. This can of course be super uncomfortable and scary. You'll see people on the street like screaming or being aggressive or approaching people, just being really rude, unfriendly, and threatening sometimes, and you'll see this a lot. And you'll also have people like preaching in the street, but like not just preaching, like screaming in a microphone some stuff from the Bible or something like that. Just very intense people. Not trying to say that you're crazy if you're religious. This is a different kind of people, okay? Like, people who just scream and try to stop people on the street and get them to listen to what they have to say. Like, that's just not okay. I fully respect religious people. This is not an attack. And like, if you're on a train and it's late and someone's being crazy, like, it's just so annoying because you can't get away, and it's just like, please don't talk to me, please don't talk to me. Another thing that you just get so used to seeing is people in suits. Like, people looking fancy as hell, dressed up super nice. Obviously people going to work and stuff, but like people who have super formal jobs. But something you also see is people in like super pretty, you know, dresses from other cultures, or suits, obviously all genders, but usually the dresses are the most like flamboyant ones, so they're kind of the ones that I'll remember the most. And also, I guess in general, general like fashion choices are way more free. Like you'll see people with very different styles and styles that would very much just stand out in a small town, but here you see people all the time like just living their best life, sporting whatever they're wearing and looking amazing. And I love that like big cities are kind of an easier place to find your own style and find yourself and be brave enough to wear whatever you want to wear. You don't really have to be that scared to get attention because there's just so many people. Oh, crowds is another thing that I haven't put on my list, but obviously you're just so used to people everywhere all the time, like full pavements, full like crowded areas and all of that, but that's kind of more of a given thing. So another disgusting one, you get used to seeing vomit everywhere. You'll see it all the time, like people having been sick on the street. You get used to like having to watch out for it when you're walking and stuff like that. Another thing that probably depends a little bit on what area you're in and all of that, but you get a lot more used to seeing drugs and drug use and probably also be offered drugs. I actually don't think I've ever been offered drugs, but I just don't look like, stereotypically I don't look like a person who would do drugs, and I'm also not out very late and all of that, and I'm not around a lot of sketchy people and all of that, so I haven't been offered drugs personally, but of course like I know people who have been. But you do get used to seeing, you know, you'll find needles, you'll find like spoons or whatever, you'll find equipment that people clearly have used to do drugs, and you'll find it just on the ground or whatever. It's just kind of sad to see it because obviously drug use is a huge issue, especially for our generation, but that's something that I have never really seen like in my hometown because it's very small, and the drug culture or whatever is very, I think if you don't know anyone in it, you won't see it, which is, I think like obviously that is a theme throughout for the drug world. You can be so oblivious to it if you don't know that it exists, but it definitely does. It's just that you don't see it because you're not exposed to it. Seeing people on drugs or doing drugs and all of that, it makes me really uncomfortable. I don't even drink alcohol because it just freaks me out that something will change me or my personality or how I act or my decisions and all of that. And I'm not trying to shame drug addicts because that is absolutely not something I stand for. I fully think drug addicts need help and should get help and shouldn't be criminalized. But it freaks me out that someone is kind of like unpredictable because they have a substance in them that just changes the way they act. Obviously everyone is not violent, but oh my god, this is not what this video is about. Ah, I got a bit carried away there. Second to last, something you see quite a lot is car crashes. I haven't seen a lot of like really serious things, but I have seen people be injured, and it's scary obviously when you see car crashes, but it happens quite often, or not just obviously like traffic collisions in general, not just cars. When I saw my first like crash up front, it was a motorcyclist, like someone opening a door and they crashed into it, and I was just completely useless. Like I know first aid, I know what to do, but I was just in shock. Like I always thought that I was that person who would be like, bam, this is what we do, like someone call 999. Like I thought I would be like really good, but I wasn't. It was really disappointing to me personally because I was so confident with myself, and then I just failed. But there were other people there, so the person got help. Like it didn't really matter that I didn't do anything. But anyway, now I'm probably way more prepared if it happens again, but obviously I hope it doesn't happen again. But I've seen a lot of people like just cars like collide, but not like fully like dramatic, but just kind of, you know, hit each other. The traffic here is kind of crazy and it's also a bit confusing sometimes, so sometimes people have like just crashed into each other at like some kind of crossing or in a turn. At least I haven't crashed myself, so I'm pleased about that. The last thing that you see a lot is people having arguments and people crying or like having a breakdown. I feel like I've seen multiple breakups like from the sideline, just like walking around being like, oh, please don't have that argument in front of me, like this is uncomfortable. Or people arguing with their kids, like their kids not being, you know, really small, like actually being able to have an argument with someone. But also like something that I've heard a lot here in London is people shouting at their kids, like saying bad words, like saying shut up and the F word and stuff like to their kids, and that just breaks my heart. Like I can't deal with people like talking badly to their kids, because you really should be like the safe person that they can always, you know, like rely on to not insult them or like verbally abuse them, and then you do. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, if you say shut up to your kid one time then you're an abuser. Like I'm not trying to throw that word around lightly. First of all, if they're comfortable doing it in public, that means they don't think it's bad, probably. And also like it's probably a lot worse at home, and you can kind of tell when like this is normal, this is just how they talk to their kids. They just have an aggressive way of talking to them, which is like, oh, please stop. And you hear like couples having arguments and you see people like clearly they're not happy with each other when they're like walking, or like they're not even walking next to each other. I've seen people obviously like slap each other or punch each other and stuff. I haven't seen a lot of violence, but I have seen people get physical, and obviously like that's not okay. And also like people having breakdowns and stuff, like you'll see people just sitting on the sidewalk like crying. I've also been there. I've also cried in public, and apparently like English people feel really embarrassed if they cry in public, like I've heard, but to me it's like if I'm gonna cry, I'm gonna cry. I can't hold it back. But yeah, that was my full list. Let me know if you can relate to anything, or if there's anything else that you think should have been on the list, because this wasn't the most thought out list. Is definitely not extensive. But before I go, I wanted to give a special shout out to my loyal subscriber Keith. It's his birthday today, so happy birthday. I hope you're having a great day, and let me take this moment to say thank you for your continuous support. It really means a lot to me and I appreciate it. Have a great weekend, everyone. I'll see you next Friday. Keep up the good vibes. Bye!